Hi, Whitney with Girl Friday Crafts here. We are going to do a project today using the Straighten Your Crown and Handle It transfer that just came back to the chalk catalog. This is actually one of my favorite transfers. And today is National Fairy Tale Day, so I thought this was kind of an appropriate transfer and project to do today. Also going to use the vintage label and crowns shockable shapes and the corresponding transfer. Put those aside for now. I'm going to chalk on a 9x12 frame insert on the black side. The white side can also be chalked on, so at some point, depending on how I end up displaying this or deciding to display this, will determine whether or not I'm going to use this other side. I'm waiting to find out if these old inserts will fit in the new outside the box frames, and if so, I will order one, because I just used one, that was the only one I had, and then drop it in there. And if not, then I will figure something out. But I'm not going to worry about that today. So, open my transfer here. I got this transfer for the first time right after I joined chalk in May of last year, and I used it to make a couple of t-shirts, and I committed a very rookie mistake and didn't move fast enough to get it into water. So the paste, or well, actually it was doing t-shirts, the ink stuck on the transfer, dried on the transfer, and I could not get it washed off enough to then be able to use the transfer again. And it was dried on there so much so that I couldn't even use it and then, you know, realistically touch it up. So I only got about 2-3 uses out of it. I was very disappointed. It's my very favorite. And when it came back just last month, I think, I bought 2 to make sure that doesn't ever happen again. So you should get 10 to 12, 8 to 12 uses out of a transfer before it, you know, just starts to maybe not clean up as well, or not be as sticky, so then, you know, you get bubbles on it, on your surface. So I wanted to make really sure that I would be able to get plenty of uses out of this one. The only other transfer I've ever done that with is the Painterly Angel that came out with the holiday collection last year, because we weren't sure at the time, and actually I'm not even sure if they've said if that was going to stay in the collection, if that was going to be an evergreen transfer. And I bought 2 just to be sure that I got lots of uses out of it. And I actually started earlier today repurposing a surface to use that transfer on, so there will be an upcoming video on that. I didn't record a video of me painting this frame because y'all don't need to see that. There's no, you don't need to watch me for 20 minutes trying to paint a picture frame. Okay, so what, if you've never seen a chalk video, what I was just doing was what is called defuzzing the transfer. These are very sticky, and you want to get some of that sticky off before you put it on a surface, so that when you lift the transfer, it doesn't tear the transfer, it doesn't pull any of the paste up with it. If you're using ink and textiles, you do not have to defuzz. You actually kind of want it to stick as much as possible, but that is not what we are doing today. So I'm going to place this, yep, I need to go up a little more, try to get it a little bit in the middle. I have a tendency to just eyeball things. And then I'm going to press down from the middle, and that is very crooked. We're going to straighten it up a little. That should be better. There we go. Press down, kind of try to make sure there's not anything on the back of my transfer. There's actually, it looks like there's a little something on there. Try and get that off of there. There we go. You want to kind of push down from the middle and work your way out. Try and get all those bubbles out. Ah. Sorry, I have a couple of other little pieces. It's always a good idea to just kind of glance over how your transfer is laying on the surface to see if you see anything that looks like it's stuck in the negative space, or see a bubble. You can get those things resolved before you start to chalk, prevent some problems. So there's a little something on my transfer in this spot, but it's not in the negative space. So I'm not going to worry about it right now. And when I wash it, I'll try to get it out of there. Okay, so we are going to use some Shimmer Frost and Bubbly for this project, and then you can see that there's a crown in the project. I'm not going to chalk that, because instead of chalking that, I'm going to chalk the crown shape and attach that here to give it some dimension. So when I do that, I'm going to use the nominee. So we are going to do your and handle it in Bubbly, straighten your crown, or straighten and crown in Shimmer Frost. Trying to think strategically. What I usually try to do when I'm doing multiple colors is paste and then lift the transfer, set it back down, paste some more, lift and set it back down, paste some more, set it back down, so that the transfer isn't drying, stuck to the paste that's drying on the surface, because then you'll get some lift. I am not very fast at this as of yet, so I still sometimes run into problems. This is a washable surface, so if I mess it up too bad, I can wash it and start over. I'm gonna start at the bottom and work my way up. So I'm gonna start with this and handle it. I think, sorry, I say those things and then I'm like, maybe not. Actually, no, I'm gonna start with the Shimmer Frost. Nope, I'm gonna start with Bubbly. I'm gonna start with the Bubbly because those are smaller. I'll be able to move a little bit quicker. So I'm gonna start my paste. I wanna get it to kind of a yogurt consistency. And then I'm going to get one of my smaller squeegees. So I tend to take squeegees, this is something I learned from another designer, and cut them in half. So, sticking to me. This is the small squeegee. This is the normal size of a small squeegee. And this is the normal size of a mini squeegee. And I will cut this in half or in fourths. I will cut these in half, or you can cut this in thirds to give yourself smaller tools to work with. So I don't know how well you all can see that. I'm trying to get a good light. There we go. So the your and the and handle it, that's a pretty small space, and you're pretty close to areas that I want to do in the Shimmer Frost. So I'm going to use this. This was a small or a mini squeegee that I cut in half, and that'll just give me some smaller space to work with. The other thing I'm going to get, so this is the multi-tool. I should look this up. I never remember what this is called. There's an artist toolkit that comes with a couple of paintbrushes and a couple of different tools, and this has a nice little edge on it that you can use to help lift the corners of your transfer. So I have a feeling I might need that, so we're gonna set that aside. Okay, so we're gonna do the paste. Actually gonna go in the middle and work my way out to the side. I'm gonna try to go kind of heavy so that it doesn't dry as quickly. Squeegee off a little bit of the excess. And I'm going to take this corner and I'm going to lift the transfer. Try to pull it up a little more so you can see. So that worked really well. I'll put it back down. I'm going to push this back down just above what I just pasted. So in the crown, over the word crown, to make sure that when I chalk that section, I don't have any bubbles. You can use a tool to kind of help with that so you don't run your fingers into paste and then end up with paste everywhere. Okay, so then we're gonna go up and we're gonna do and I'm realizing I didn't need to push that. I didn't need to push crown back down so much just yet because I'm gonna just lift it again here in a minute. You want to make sure that you cover all of the negative space. So that's one of the areas that I sometimes mess up on. We're going to lift that. All right, a little bit of a mess up there. I wonder if I can go back over it. A little bit that I maybe just didn't get enough ink. There we go. Okay, that's better. All right, drop that in there, and I'm gonna get my shimmer frost. Go back over this. I'm gonna need to move quickly. That bubbly is starting to dry. I could tell when I pulled that and handle it back up a second time. I'm gonna stir this. I'm gonna use a small squeegee that I cut in half. And start in the middle, work my way out. Try to get a decent amount of paste so that I can spread quickly. Carefully, because I don't want to get this shimmer frost in where I have bubbly if I can help it. You know, they're not so extreme differences in color that it would make that much of a difference, but I would like to try to keep the look that I'm going for. Pick up some of my excess paste here. Use it. And I might need to grab a smaller squeegee to get into this space without going into the bubbly. No, maybe not. It should be okay. couple of places where I've missed the negative space. If you lift slowly, when you lift, you can sometimes catch where you might have missed a spot. And if you put the transfer back down, you can fix it. There's also another way after the fact to fix it. So okay, I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna finish this. I am recording this on a Monday. I hope everybody had a good Monday. It was a Monday for me. But that's okay, because I'm getting to do some crafty things at the end of the day. That always makes me happy. Got some good project ideas at the end of the day, which I always like. Things to think about and work on over the next couple of weeks. I'm very much looking forward to spring projects. It's about 70 degrees where I am today, which is a little weird for February, and if I think too much about it, it makes me a little worried about summer, but I'm trying not to think too much about it and just enjoy the warm weather. Enjoy being able to walk my dogs without having to be bundled up in a gazillion layers. And summer's gonna be what summer's gonna be, and I will deal with that then. Okay, so go back and do this this way. To get the transfer folded in on itself. There we go. All right. I'm gonna drop this in my water bath. I do have a plastic tub off to the side. You can't see it on the camera. That has some water in it. I have two, actually, one for tools, one for transfers. And so when I am working on something, I drop the finished transfers directly into that water bath, and they're okay to sit there for a few minutes while I finish up, and then that way they don't dry with paste on them. I have a few minutes to finish up, clean up, that sort of thing, and then get it upstairs to wash it. We have an unfinished part of our basement, but I don't have a sink in there. That's the dream. So there's a couple of spots. I'm not sure if you can see in the bottom curve of the S, for example. There's a little spot where the paste either lifted or didn't go all the way through. So this is another tool that comes in that artist toolkit, and this is wonderful for touch-ups. You just get a little bit of paste and you just dab it onto your project, onto your surface. It works well on textiles if you're working with ink as well. And it'll just, fill in that spot. And if you go kind of slow, if you're kind of careful, you really can't tell. And once it's dried, if you're looking at it and you still don't like it, you still feel like it looks, different than the rest, you can go over it again. It's a very forgiving tool. It's very easy to work with. I find sometimes if I mess with something too much, I make it worse. So often I will just leave it be. I'll touch it up a little bit and then just kind of let it go. Otherwise, then I'm like, oh, well, I've just messed it all up. So my take on it. Okay, so there's that. And then I'm gonna put this aside and make sure that's not gonna slide off there. There we go, okay. So we have our chalkable shape and the transfers that go with it. I like these chalkable shapes. They give a lot of dimension to a project. They're very fun. I have used both Elmer's glue and score tape to adhere them. Both seem to work equally well. I did a project a few weeks ago and actually did a little blog post on it as a sort of process post on how I did it, and there were some very thin pieces of the chalkable shape. So one of the shapes was a wine glass, so the stem was very skinny, and I was concerned that glue would seep out no matter how little I used. And so I used score tape. It was like 1/8 of an inch or something like that, and it worked really well and it just held really well. Okay, so this is the shape we're going to use, and this is the transfer. So there's 3 shapes in the package and 3 different transfers I think that work on them, and then there's all kinds of other like small little crowns that you could use as accents. Another designer, and now I can't remember who, so I'll have to go back and find it. If I can find the video, I will link to it in the comments of this one. Used the etching cream and etched these labels on glass jars. Looked really, really cool. All right, so we're gonna cut this. I try to keep transfers on, let me start over. I try to keep the backing sheet intact on my transfers. So instead of cutting the whole thing, I try to cut the transfer itself off and leave the backing sheet intact. Now that's not how I did it when I first started, but I saw another designer do this, and I was having problems with organizing my transfers, remembering what pieces went with what, so that if I was doing videos or doing a post about a project, I can remember what transfer did this little piece come from. And then I had all these little pieces that, you know, fell everywhere when I tried to pull them out of an envelope or folder, however I was trying to store them. So when I saw Debbie cut a transfer off the sheet and leave the backing sheet intact, I was like, you know, I think I'm gonna try that. Now everybody has their own way of doing it, and everybody has the way they like the best. This is working for me. It can be a bit unruly at times. There have been a couple of times with the transfer where I thought, nope, I'm gonna have to cut the backing sheet. There's just no way. And I, you know, managed to cut the transfer, but it's not easy if it's a big transfer. So at the end of the day, there may be times where that doesn't work, but so far it's been working, and that's what I'm trying to stick with. So we're gonna defuzz this piece. This is the chalk defuzzing cloth. You do not have to have this. You can use a microfiber cloth or a cotton t-shirt. I like it because there is a side that you can use to dry a transfer. So say you're wanting to use multiple colors, but it's a very intricate design, and so sometimes that's easier to do one color, take it off, wash it, let it dry, set it back, do the second color. And you can use the terry cloth side of this to like dab a transfer dry. It works really well, works really quickly. So, and like for me, if I'm doing classes and people are wanting to share a transfer, then I can wash it and dry it for them quickly. So So I have this because it just works for me, but you do not have to have it to be able to properly defuzz the transfers. So I am actually going to get rid of this towel, or not get rid of it, move it, because this transfer is going to overlap the shape, and I don't want the back of the transfer sticking to that terry cloth towel. So we're going to line this up. Now the one thing that is a challenge sometimes with these chalkable shapes is some of them are small. So this is what it looks like. Some of them are small, and you'll see that the transfer overlaps it. So chalking on this, I'm gonna end up with chalk on my fingers, because you need to try to hold it in place a little bit so it doesn't slide everywhere. So I'm gonna get my nominee, this beautiful, beautiful gold metallic color, and stir it up a little bit. This was a color of the month. To be honest, I don't remember what month. It was 2023, and it was so unbelievably popular that it is now a permanent color, which is great. I love it. It's just a lovely gold metallic. The color of the month for February, which I completely failed to order. I placed an order, forgot to add it in my cart, and of course by the time I remembered and did put together another order, it was gone. It's called Disco. It was silver metallic. Hoping that might come back. We'll see. Okay, we're gonna start in the middle. Typically want to start in the middle of a transfer if you can, so that if the paste sort of pulls the transfer a little bit, it pulls it this way and not this way, if that makes any sense. Also makes it easier to spread your paste. So if you start in the middle and you have a lot, it's just easier to spread it out to the sides. So at some point here in a minute, I'm gonna have to let go of this and figure out where I can hold on to it in this little bitty teeny tiny space. Turn it around and put my finger right there just to hold it still just a little while I get this last little bit. There's that. And then I'm gonna grab it by the side here, very, very carefully, very slowly. Pull the transfer off. Drop that in my water bath. Of course, it's now just sticking to the transfer that's in there. That's okay. So there are a couple of spots on here on the very edge where, I don't know if you can tell, where I didn't quite get the paste all the way, but I'm actually not going to fix that. I'm not going to try to fix that because it kind of gives it a little vintagey kind of look. And so I am going to, I know you can't really see it and I can't lift it up, but I am going to adhere this chalkable shape crown right up in the top there where the crown is in the transfer, and then it'll give it a little bit of depth. I might also, I'll do that first and see what it looks like, but this transfer has a whole bunch of these little teeny tiny crowns, so I'll have to decide if I want to to do some of those. It's going to depend really on whether or not this fits in the 9x12 outside the box frame. If it does, I'll probably just leave it be, because I don't want to run the risk of going too far over and then what I've chalked doesn't fit in the parameters of the frame. If it doesn't, what I was thinking about doing was gluing some rope or ribbon to the back so that you could just hang this freestanding as it is. And if that's the case, then I might do some other crowns, you know, some down here or something like that. I don't know, we'll see. So I'm gonna let all this dry, and then I will adhere that chalkable shape, and I will put a picture of the finished product in the comments. And if I add a little to it after that, you'll see it there. So thank you all for watching. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and make sure to come back and watch for future projects. Bye.